Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into some really compelling ideas today. We're looking at how parents actively, guide their children's growth.
Hmm.
Think of it like being a co-pilot on a fascinating journey, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, a developmental journey.
Exactly. And we'll be exploring the different ways parents influence not just where their kids are headed, but also maybe how quickly they get there.
Right. Based on some really thought-provoking insights into this whole process.
Yeah, there's some great stuff here. Our goal today is really to pull out the core concepts that sort of illuminate this dynamic. Get ready for some moments where things might really click as we explore these parental influences.
Absolutely. And maybe a good place to start is this idea of a child's trajectory.
Trajectory. Okay, what exactly do we mean by that?
Well, think of a trajectory simply as the general direction or the path a child's development takes over time. Like you said, a journey, maybe with a planned destination, maybe not entirely planned, but there's a direction. And what becomes really clear is the significant role parents play in, well, steering those trajectories.
Searing them, right?
Yeah.
Not just letting it happen.
Exactly. This isn't just chance. It's often about parents actively, sometimes consciously, sometimes maybe less so, trying to guide their children towards positive outcomes. Everything from their physical well-being to their ability to connect with others, their social skills.
So how do these developmental journeys actually get started? It sounds like parents are pretty involved right from the beginning, setting that initial direction.
Absolutely. Parents actively initiate pathways they believe will be good for their children. And at the same time, they're trying to steer them away from paths that might lead to, well, negative outcomes.
Makes sense. How do they do that? Like, what does that look like in practice?
It can happen in a lot of different ways. For example, parents directly teach their children what's considered appropriate behavior. They explain the reasons behind certain rules or expectations.
Oh, wow.
Yes, the why. They might also illustrate the potential downsides of following negative examples, maybe pointing out consequences without being overly scary, but just helping kids understand the benefits of positive choices.
Okay.
And beyond just the direct guidance, parents also proactively shape their children's environments, their circumstances, offering a layer of protection and support.
Right. It's like setting the first few waypoints on that developmental map,
Yeah.
deciding which routes look promising and maybe which ones to actively avoid.
Exactly, setting the initial course.
You mentioned something interesting earlier about this proactive shaping, this protection. Homeschooling came up.
Yes, homeschooling can be seen as one example of a very deliberate way parents establish a specific, often protective trajectory.
How so?
Well, by choosing to educate their children at home, parents have much greater influence over the learning environment, the social interactions, the values being emphasized.
Mm-hmm. Control, in a way.
A level of control, yes. Often, this decision stems from a desire to shield children from maybe negative peer pressure or concerns about the school environment itself. It's a very intentional effort to create what they see as a more positive, tailored developmental path.
Okay, so the journey begins. Parents have set a course, maybe built some protective fences, like with homeschooling.
Mhm.
But it's not like they just set the GPS and then take a nap, right?
Definitely not. No, it's ongoing.
It sounds like they continue to be involved all along the way.
Exactly right. Once a child is moving along a certain trajectory, parents continue to play a crucial role. We can call this mediating their experiences on that path.
Mediating. Okay, what does that involve?
Think of mediation as all the ways parents actively guide and influence things during the journey. Stepping in, shaping, interpreting.
Gotcha.
And one important aspect of this is preparing a child for what might lie ahead, kind of pre-arming them for changing situations.
Pre-arming, like giving them a heads up.
Yeah, precisely. For instance, a parent might talk to their child about how to handle disagreements with friends before a play date, or discuss strategies for dealing with peer pressure before they go to a party where it might come up.
Ah, okay. So you're equipping them with some tools, some strategies, before they even encounter potential bumps in the road.
Exactly, giving them that toolkit in advance.
That's like highlighting tricky spots on the map and maybe giving them a few suggested routes. What happens, though, when the child is actually in the middle of a tricky spot, a challenging situation?
Right, well, that's where concurrent mediation comes in.
Concurrent, so happening at the same time.
Yes. This is when a parent intervenes in real time while a situation is actually unfolding.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine a child is really struggling to share a toy with another child at the park. A parent might step in right then and there. They might offer immediate guidance, perhaps suggesting they take turns, or helping them find another toy they can both play with, maybe just helping them verbalize their feelings.
I see. So it's like offering real-time course correction as the journey unfolds, right in the moment.
Precisely. It's immediate support and guidance.
Okay, so we have preparing them beforehand, pre-arming, and stepping in during concurrent mediation. What about after something has already happened? Is there a role for parents then?
Absolutely. That takes us to the idea of debriefing a situation.
Debriefing, like
Oh.
talking it through afterwards.
Exactly. This happens after an event is over, and it focuses on influencing how a child understands or feels about what just occurred.
How does that work?
Well, a parent might talk with their child about, say, a difficult interaction they had at school, help them process their emotions, maybe figure out what they learned from it. Or if a child felt left out at a party, the debriefing conversation could explore why that might have happened, how it made them feel, and perhaps suggest ways to handle similar situations differently next time. Or maybe just validate their feelings.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's about shaping the meaning they take away from an experience.
Yes. This reflection and processing after the fact is a really significant way parents continue to shape that ongoing trajectory. It influences how a child interprets their experiences, which then affects future choices and feelings. We see this, for instance, after disclosures of abuse. Supportive parental responses during that debriefing phase really help children cope better.
Wow, that's fast. It's fascinating how many different ways parents are involved, actively guiding their children. And it seems that it's not just about the direction they're heading, is it? You mentioned earlier that parents can also influence the speed of that journey.
That's right. That's another layer to this. Parents can and often do modify the pace of a child's development.
How?
We can think about it in terms of acceleration and deceleration.
Okay, like a car,
What?
speeding up and slowing down.
Kind of, yeah. Acceleration involves encouraging a child to move forward, maybe pushing them gently, supporting them in taking on new challenges, pursuing interests more intensely, stepping outside their comfort zone when it seems appropriate.
Like giving them a little nudge when you sense they're ready for the next step.
Exactly. It's like saying, okay, let's try the slightly harder thing, or let's go a bit faster here.
And deceleration, that's the opposite, I assume. Slowing things down.
Precisely. Deceleration means intentionally slowing things down when needed. This might involve protecting a child from situations that seem too overwhelming for them at that moment, or discouraging certain risky behaviors that they might not be ready to handle, or maybe just providing extra support and lowering expectations if they seem to be struggling to keep up with something.
Applying the brakes, what you said earlier.
Yeah, it's about recognizing when it's appropriate to encourage faster progress and when it's actually more helpful to provide a safety net, slow the pace, and let them catch their breath or build skills more gradually.
So it's about finding the right rhythm for the journey, for that specific child at that specific time.
Finding that rhythm is absolutely key, knowing when to push and when to protect. It's a constant balancing act, really.
So, thinking about all this, what does it all mean for you listening in? This deep dive into how parents guide these developmental trajectories, it really highlights the active and ongoing role you play.
Mm-hmm. It's constant.
Yeah, it's not just about setting a general direction for your child way back when. It seems it's about constantly navigating the path with them.
Offering guidance, stepping in when needed.
Right, mediating those experiences and even adjusting the speed based on what they're going through and the world around them.
It's incredibly dynamic.
It really is. And here's where it gets, I think, really interesting for reflection. Thinking about your own life, or maybe what you've observed in other families, what kinds of developmental paths, these trajectories, do you see parents actively trying to shape for their children?
That's a great question to ponder.
Yeah, and what methods do they seem to use? Which ones seem most effective from your perspective? This whole idea of a developmental journey or map is such a powerful way to look at things. Hopefully this exploration has given you some new insights, some new ways to think about that whole process.